Hi and welcome to this short presentation. This is Raed Kadi, a second year MPH student at the School of Global Public Health in New York University. Today, I will talk briefly about the chromium exposure occurred in Ranipet, India. This presentation is a part of the Global Environmental Health course instructed by Professor Jack Caravanos in 2021. Chromium toxin is one of the main environmental hazards associated with lethal industry due to the tannery operations. A major chromium exposure occurred in Ranipet, India, and was linked to the huge lethal and tanning industry. Population and their environment in that small town were extremely affected. In this short story, I'll give a quick background about Ranipet, then tanning and chromium hazards. After that, I'll explore shortly the chromium problem in Ranipet. So let's start. Ranipet is a beautiful historical town. It is located in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu. From a total of almost 51,000, more than 50% of Ranipet population are females. Hindus are the majority of the religious group, followed by Muslims and then Christians, in addition to many other minority groups. It was built around 1771 and gained importance since the establishment of the European cantonment. The oldest companies were formed in the early 19th century, so the major lifeline for the town are small and large industries and mainly lethal. It gained its importance in the Indian economy because it's the second largest fabrication cluster. And as we can see here, that lethal products are one of the main exported items in India, ranging from 250 to 360 million Indian rupees in the last 5 years. Now let's move to tanning and chromium hazards. Leather is a product of processed animal skins or hides. Tanning is a traditional processing method of leather because it's cheaper, faster, and easier. But many chemicals as chromium are involved in this process, so it must be strictly managed to avoid possible hazards. Tanneries are associated with 33% of chromium sites globally. From those, 75% are located in South Asia. Chromium is a naturally occurring heavy metal commonly used in industry. It can be present in tannery water waste in significant amount. So it is the most prevalent and harmful pollutant found in those processes. One of the chromium derivative is hexavalent chromium, and it is a carcinogen that can affect human as well as animals. Chromium is the third top toxic threat in the globe that affect from 13 to 17 million people. And this is a global map showing population at risk around the world. And we can see here clearly that Ranipet is one of the highest at-risk population. Exposure pathway. Exposure pathway started by dumping of untreated water waste by the industries in the nearby areas. Untreated water can contain harmful chromium chemicals. Also, it could contain solid waste products that could include chromium-contaminated waste, which could be consumed by animals. Pollutant also may be absorbed by the soil and reach into the groundwater sources. All of that will contaminate the people, food, and waters. Health impact. Common route for exposure are through ingestion, inhalation, and dermal contact. 16 million people are at risk globally. 3 million of them are estimated to be burdened with disease. It is associated with abnormal hematological function and gastrointestinal and dermatological problems. Signs and symptoms of chromium toxicity include acute dermatitis and skin ulcer, also known as chromium ulcers, as well as other skin conditions such as dryness, fissuring, and scaling. Also, it could include chronic rhinitis, congestion, sinusitis, and/or perforation in the nasal septums. Also, hypertrophic gastritis, reproductive dysfunction, lung cancer, damage to the kidney, imbalance of liver cells, necrosis, lymphatic infiltration, and or other hepatic effects may be included. Also, it could include hypertension and other cardiovascular effects, respiratory complications such as bronchitis and asthma, cardiopulmonary collapse, arrest, or other cardiovascular effects. Now let's talk shortly about chromium problem that occurred in Ranipet. 1.6 million metric tons are produced from factories' waste, mainly lethal tannery operations. Chromium salt and basic chromium sulfate containing hexavalent chromium are the main hazard products. Waste was dumped nearby and leached into soil and water, where 5 major lakes have been contaminated. Situation: 3,482,000 people were potentially affected by the high level of chromium contamination. Factories were closed in 1996 by Pollutant Control Board. However, a new study has shown that a more recent source of contamination is still in place, and that because new industries continue to pollute the area, hiding under the mask of the old contamination. Needed action: waste through allocation to a more secured location is needed, followed by extensive cleanup operations of the contaminated soil and groundwater by modern technology. Also, better waste management and monitoring protocols, as well as other remediation options, are still needed. In summary, hexavalent chromium is the potentially harmful carcinogen that can cause reproductive, cardiovascular, pulmonary, cardiopulmonary, liver, and kidney effects. Ranipet in India was affected by chromium pollution, which is linked to the uncontrolled tannery process wastes from the lethal industry. Contaminated soil and groundwater cleanup and other remediation is still needed in Ranipet. This is the end of this presentation. I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you for your kind attention. And for more information, please visit the listed references and sources. Thank you for joining.